Okay, hi everyone. After a short break, we are proceeding with the program on stage 9, and welcome to first VC Talk panel session on this year's Splet. So here with us are Mr. Aco Gagić, Vuk Lau, and Goran Stevanović. So I'm handing over. Enjoy.
Hi everyone, my name is Vuk Lau. I'm partner at Silicon Gardens fund from Slovenia, but we're actively investing in the region. So are we doing just introduction and then, okay, thanks to be here today.
Hello everyone, my name is Goran Stevanović. I come from South Central Ventures. We are a regional fund with offices in Ljubljana, Zagreb, Skopje and Belgrade, a team of 10, investing actively in early stage companies in the region.
Thank you and welcome in my name. My name is Aco Gagić. I'm one of the co-founders of the company ThinkBig and one of the leaders of the PHP Serbia community. And I will be your moderator for today. So we have a strict timeline, so it's better to start with a question. So Goran, first question for you is, could you share some insight into SE Ventures investment focus and which sectors or technologies you find most promising right now?
Okay, so as I mentioned, we focus on early stage companies, so that means pre-seed and seed. We look mostly into B2B SaaS companies, but also we invest in some marketplaces, some B2C software, etc. So as long as it's software technology, we don't really go into too much into hardware. But if there are hardware components, that's fine. But generally software, ideally B2B SaaS, that's where we feel most comfortable investing in.
Thank you. And what are the key attributes do you look for in the startups when considering an investment, particularly in early stage companies?
So in early stage, every investor will tell you it's about the founders, definitely. So it's still early. You know there will be pivots, there will be changes of direction. So we look for founders that will be there in good and bad times. We actually are partnering with these guys in their business, so we look for the right partner. However, when it comes to the business, we obviously needs to be an interesting proposal for us when it comes to something new, replacing something because it's better, faster, or it's a completely new category. And also we look for some traction. So we are not the fund that goes just for the idea. We kind of want to see at least a few clients, ideally outside of the region. Also, region is fine to test the hypothesis, but when it comes to traction, 2 or 3 clients, paying customers, or at least some paid pilots. This is what we would want to see as early signs of some product market fit. We don't ask for the full product market fit, but early signs, that's definitely going to make us happy.
Thank you. Vuk, what are the top 3 non-negotiable criteria when you look in a startup?
Okay, before I answer, just because we're here because of you, just like a quick survey. How many of you are founders, startup founders? Okay, how many of you fundraised successfully? Okay, how many of you got any government grant? Okay, and how many of you would like to start a startup in the near future? Okay, I'll try to be brief, but also to give non-ChatGPT answer. First thing is and it sounds cliche maybe, but you have to have the vision, and the vision have to be aligned with the potential size of the market. And why I'm saying this, many startups don't even know, especially the inexperienced ones, is how the venture capital funds actually functioning. So for us to look and to positively decide to invest, we need to have a conviction that just that one startup will basically give us a return of the size of the whole fund. Now, if the fund is size of let's say 10 million or 50 million, so the math is simple. We always look that your startup will be big enough that once we exit, we will get the full size of fund just from one startup. And that's like within Inventis, this is kind of like the standard, especially in the early stage funds. We maybe invest like slightly even before. Goran and South Central Ventures, like we are comfortably investing in pre-revenue and pre-product. But because of that, like the vision and the size of the market is extremely important. And this kind of like ambition goes hand in hand. Team definitely, and we'll talk about this a bit more. And the third thing is just kind of like you need to be extremely passionate about this. We talk with hundreds of startups each year, like dozens of startups on a weekly level, and we need to see the energy. And I say like usually like how I decide will I talk with the startup and kind of like go further in discussion depends like will I feel butterflies in my stomach or not. So if you don't have this passion, you will have difficulties attracting good employees, you will have difficulties attracting customers, and you will have difficulties attracting investors. So I would kind of like put those three as what we are really looking, and like if you don't have all three of these, like we probably will not have conviction to invest.
And while you're talking, what kind of team dynamics and leadership do you prioritize when evaluating candidates?
So if as Goran said, like in early days, like the only thing you have is actually your team. So team dynamic, like if it's a single founder, we invested in single founders, but it's not ideal. Like this road is extremely challenging, and if you're alone, it will be hard, especially when things don't go as planned. So team dynamics initially, but also like what many startup founders, and I see this as a pattern in our region, not just in Serbia, but let's say Balkans, is that you don't really think who will be your first 5 employees. Now I completely understand, like we are financially still, okay, there is more capital than before, but still financially we in pre-seed, like in early stages, we're not closing huge rounds like startups in Silicon Valley or like in the more developed countries. So you usually go to hire someone who is cheap and with the hope that you will grow that person, but it's extremely hard. So what we're looking besides the founder team, and the founder team dynamics is also extremely important. Like, is it 50-50? If the share in the company is 50-50, are both founders pulling the equal weight? Because if not, quite soon the internal dynamics will be, let's say, suboptimal. So we're also trying to see this kind of like more mature mindset in how the core team is set up. Do they have all the necessary talent? And if they don't, are they aware what they're missing? And if they're aware, are they already identified who will be their first hires when they get funding? So this is like, I'm kind of like really emphasizing this because like 99% of the startups, when I ask them, okay, like once you get funding, who will be your first hires? They say roles. They don't even know like who will be these guys. But you need like early on, like even like when you're kind of like starting with the idea, you need to really get people on board with your idea who will join you on this journey, and these people should be experienced. And I'll just close because like we don't have much time. I want to drag this discussion. Like it's extremely important as a founder that you hire people who are smarter than you. This will make like immense difference in how your company will scale and at which rate you will grow. So yeah, I hope I didn't spend too much time on this one, but
no,
like
it's okay.
I'm quite passionate about this.
Back to you, Goran. How does South Central Ventures support its portfolio companies beyond capital investment?
That's we could talk about that for hours, but that's definitely something we like to do, and this is something that we think it's quite important in the early stages. We are not passive partners. We are not just financing the startup. We are actually active partners. We sit on a board, or even if we don't call it a board, it's a team together with the founder. in early days, founders are all over the place, and definitely they see useful in us putting the structure, putting some sort of key parameters that we want to achieve over the next 12 to 24 months to basically show the progress and potentially raise the next round. We then connect them to potential future investors, next round investors. We also, as we are very well connected in the region, but also through our portfolio company outside of the region, try to look for potential clients and even if not clients, then talking to people that can connecting them to people that can be potentially advisors or helping them with specific problems. But that's advisory role. However, the startup life is a continuum of ups and downs, and it's on a weekly or a daily level. You have a couple of downs and a couple of ups. And in these situations, we are there for our founders, and first of all, we are there to help them focus on the biggest issue. We help them know that even if it's, and Vuk was talking about this, it's great if you have 2 or 3 co-founders. However, usually one is the lead, and sometimes these guys who are leading the ship, they can feel lonely, and in that situation, they need support. And this is something that we can provide, as I said, not only financially, but also being there for them, understanding, and then maybe offering a couple of ideas or a couple of different views that they, sitting in the box, were not able to immediately have. So I think active partnership in the early stage is quite important. Once you reach the later stages, this is something where management becomes, let's say, professional, and the investors can actually do some other things, but not maybe sit down on a weekly and monthly level with the founders. But in early stage, I think it's quite critical.
And what advice would you give to entrepreneurs seeking founding in today's competitive landscape?
Yeah, I think it's quite important to know, first of all, why you are raising, because I think there's a lot of, hey, there's a startup event and you need to chase investors and you need to look for a round, and what should be the size of the round. Let's see, okay, this guy is asking for $1 million, this guy is for 2.5, let's do 1.5 million. I think, first of all, again, you need to know why you're raising and what you want to achieve with that. And this is quite important to be able to structure and to discuss and present to your potential investors. If we don't see that, if we don't see a clear view of what we want to achieve, and then we assess how can we do it together, it's not a good start. The second thing is, it's not the VCs or the VC capital that is always the right answer, and this is maybe a counter to why we're sitting here. But sometimes we see but sometimes we see some mature companies who basically are looking to sell a part of their business, or are looking for a strategic partner, and VC is not always the right choice. So in your growth of your company, there's the right time for angel investments, there's the right time for VC investors, but there's also a different route that you can take. And again, if you are looking for a quick growth and you have the passion and you have the big vision, then we are the right partners to talk to. So have a good view of what you want to achieve and why you need the money and how you will spend it, and then start looking for the right investor who has the big enough fund to support that size. Because if you look for a larger round, then you don't go for smaller funds, or vice versa. You can do quickly the math of how, and we also put on our websites what are the typical tickets, what are the typical round sizes that we do, and then you can find your sweet spot, shortlist the investors, and then start reaching out. You'll save yourself a lot of time and energy, and then talk to the right people that can actually really support you.
Thank you. Going back to you, Vuk. What's the most common mistake startups make when pitching for the investment, and how they can avoid it?
So a couple of things again, which are quite specific for some are even specific for Serbia only. In general, startup founders from the region, this is cultural thing, are usually quite passive in this kind of like investor startup relationship. Like in 95% of the conversations I have with startup founders, like I would get 0 questions from them. What I mentioned for Serbia, for example, is it's a rare case that like you will pitch and you'll have another meeting and investor will decide and say, yeah, this is great, I will invest in just 1 week. Usually it's a process which lasts month, 2, sometimes 6. We invested in certain startups that we talked initially like a year ago. So this is kind of like a relationship that you need to nurture. And what I'm seeing in Serbia is like maybe like 5% of the startup founders that I say and give them actionable feedback and like express some sort of kind of like interest that we like what they're doing, but they're missing certain things, I rarely get update back. And if you go just like a little bit to north of the west or like even to the east, like from all other countries, the percentage of founders who are trying to kind of like build this relationship, sending like, and that can be just like monthly update in email in 5 sentences, like this is what we plan to do, this is what we achieved, and this is what we plan to do in the next 3 months, for example. And I think that kind of like really building this relationship is extremely important, and I see that like people from Serbia just like simple not doing that. Even like from like I would dare to say whole ex-Yugoslavia, and it's as I like it's probably cultural. That's the way how we are wired, but it's not that hard to do it, and can really differentiate you from everyone else. So my advice is also like as we do due diligence on you guys, you also need to do due diligence on the funds you are reaching out. Also one common mistake is now, luckily, fortunately, we have way more active funds investing and actively looking in Serbia and the region than we had like 3 years ago maybe. And there will be at least 4 or 5 funds in the region in the just next 6 months or a year. But still, like you need to go outside of the region. Like what I would usually see, like a startup would finish, I don't know, some acceleration or incubation program, and they would reach out to usual suspects, South Central, us, Field Rouge, I don't know, Fifth Quarters, and so on. And like that's that. It's rarely that you will just reach out to 5 VCs and that you will get investment. You really need to be lucky. So this is like a long-term relationship. Even like the funds that don't invest in you, and they just like clearly didn't say, hey, this is completely something we don't invest, and this is not interesting for us by no means. So like you shouldn't bother them. But if you see that like someone is complementary to what you need, even if they don't invest or like they say no at certain point of time, you should always kind of like have an action point with them. And maybe I'll just close with this. I don't know how much time we have.
We have 2 minutes.
Okay. Your goal when pitching to investor is when you're pitching to the investor for the first time is to get next meeting. So make sure to kind of like close, even like if it's 3 minutes, like leave 30 seconds. Don't spend all 3 minutes on kind of like your pitch deck, because even if you have 10 minutes, it's not enough time to get through like all the information we need. But like leave last 30 seconds to ask, okay, like what is when we can kind of like talk in kind of like more detail, maybe like having half an hour. Is there something that you would like for us to send? Do you see this as something which fits into your investment thesis? So you really need to build this as a two-way communication, because otherwise you will just be one startup in a sea of all the random startups. So my advice to you to kind of like summarize, really look as kind of like investing or like relationship with investors in a two-way. Don't be passive, don't be defensive, there is really no need. And try to be like, even after you finish fundraising, continue this kind of like light touch or lightweight relationship, because you will most likely, you will be fundraising in a year or two again. So yeah, I would just kind of like wrap up with that.
Thanks. And Goran, last words from your side.
What's the question? Sorry.
Just we are wrapping up, so we don't have the time for any more questions, unfortunately. But some. Okay, somebody from the audience have a question, maybe.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, are you working with some startup clusters or maybe venture builders, and how are you looking at that opportunity, like to invest in portfolio of companies? Maybe supporting teams that are trying to build something like Web3 applications, or multiple applications in some space. Do you have some like collaboration with them, and are you looking also for that opportunities to invest or not?
Maybe I can do a quick answer and then you. We definitely partner with the accelerators. We think, as I was mentioning in your investment journey, they are the first point where you actually accelerate and have something to be invested in. So we work closely with them. We attend the demo days. We are mentors in the programs. We are also judges on the panels. And we work, we look closely into the portfolio of these companies. We can also even offer some expertise and do the specific classroom sessions on how to raise, what the important things are. But we invest in companies. We invest. We go for equity investments into specific companies with specific goals, and there are other ways that how the accelerators are then funded and supported. So some other funds will actually have maybe a separate pocket where they go for acceleration, but we as a fund we are partner, but we only invest then we go for investments after these companies go out successfully through the accelerators.
I'll just quickly answer literally one sentence because you asked for venture builders. We have bad experience with most of the regional venture builders because they keep, I'll just be short, unhealthy ratio of shares or equity they do and make basically startups uninvestable.
Hello, my name is Sara Đorđević. Unfortunately, I don't have a startup, but I hope that one day I will have, but my friend have one. My question is, from which industry you invest the most in startups? What industry is the most interesting for you to invest money?
So we invest in everything, literally, but we need to have conviction. The reason behind that is our fund is built on top of community, so we kind of like can go within the inner circle and search for expertise for like maybe some certain verticals that are usually not, you would usually not see venture capital funds invest in them. But for sure, like we focus, like our focus and like where our expertise lies is software, like B2B SaaS business, and on the other hand, direct to consumer mobile apps, just because one of our partners was actually co-founder of Outwit 7, Slovenian unicorn, so we kind of like have expertise in that part as well.
Yeah, and I would add very similar. I would add that just the region is, I think, still too small to focus on specific verticals. So we look really for great startups within the software business. I would say only that, because as the community grows and as the scene grows, we might be seeing more and more grouped startups in gaming or in fintech or other sectors. Right now, this is not the case, and we need to be quite wide in our approach.
Okay, that's all. We run out of the time. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for the talk.
Thanks, guys.